Okay, so what we have right now is an adult woman who was first spotted by witnesses out in the water, and she was not too far from shore and drifting in, called 911, and we responded with Seattle Fire. Seattle Fire did attempt, I believe, an AED without success. It doesn't look like the woman's been in the water long, but I'm not a medical expert. I do want to say that we are working with the King County Medical Examiner right now at this very moment, and they are conducting their own investigation, as are we. We're not calling it a suspicious death. Right now it is a death investigation, so things that we do typically work with our partner agencies, work with other officers who are working citywide, detectives available to us, like missing persons, just to see if we can get an identity on this individual. Don't know the circumstances of how she ended up in the water, and that will be the subject of our investigation. So right now it is about as early as it could possibly be. We don't have anything other than a deceased woman, and that's our starting point. So next steps: consult with detectives, work with the medical examiner's office to see what the cause of death was, and then, of course, get an identity on this individual. And
so she didn't have an ID.
No identification. Knowing that, or the information we have so far, a woman in her 50s sort of kind of lends itself to maybe you have some...
A driver's license.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking at her. I mean, she's right there. So, and like I said, it's a fairly... it doesn't look like she's been in the water long. I mean, sometimes, unfortunately, length of time can vary. And in this particular situation, she looked like she's been in the water long enough that, or just so long that fire thought they could try an AED. And that's my opinion too. I mean, again, couching that.
So no obvious signs of any trauma or anything on the body that's
the
observed so far?
And the medical examiner is doing that right now. And the medical examiner, they're the ones who are the trained experts to determine what exactly caused the death. I mean, obviously, a body in the water, I mean, the first thing you wonder is this a drowning? But we don't presume and we don't know. So the medical examiner is doing their own investigation. The person may have ID on them, we just haven't checked, because it's one of those things that we do in a step. It's a step in a series of measures that we take when we arrive at these types of scenes. So before we go through those personal belongings, we want to make sure that the medical examiner has a chance to inspect the person, and that we consult with homicide detectives and missing persons detectives, just to make sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, and not really hurrying. So it's someone's loved one, and we want to make sure we're doing the kind of investigation that anyone else would want, which means thorough, methodical, follow all the steps, and see where the information takes us.
Sean, is it common when a body's recovered in the water to immediately call out homicide, or was there some kind of obvious trauma?
No, it is common to consult. It's not necessarily a homicide call out. If there was anything that was obvious, I mean, typically, you guys are used to this, we would have homicide and CSI here. So right now, we haven't reached that point yet. Right now, we just have some information that we've got a person who's deceased. It's a woman, and clearly adult, and we're going to work with the medical examiner to see if there's anything that leads them to believe that foul play was involved. So very early in the investigation, the information may change as the investigation proceeds, as we get more details from the ME. And of course, we're going to consult detectives, because that's what we do. We've got them, and we want to make sure we're not missing anything. So we don't want to jump to any conclusions, and just do the kind of thorough, methodical investigation that anyone would deserve.
One of the first witnesses here said she might have been wearing a wetsuit. Do you know anything about that?
She's not wearing a wetsuit.
Do you know of any reports of missing people in this general area? Anyone, calling about a loved one who may have wandered off or something like that?
Right. So that's really one of the first things we're going to be doing, is just cross-referencing whether or not there's been any new missing persons reports ongoing in process. And you have to understand that if someone is, I mean, what's missing to one person may be missing to another person. So if you have a small child who doesn't come home from school on time and they're a half hour delayed, much more urgent. Whereas if you have an adult who has a routine and, you know, they don't check in for hours or days, as the case may be, depending on the relationship. So, you know, these are the things that we're doing right now. We just want to make sure that we take steps in order, have the medical examiner do their job. If we can get an ID, and again, that's going to be a medical examiner action item.
So where did the 50 years old come from? Is 50 a specific
estimate.
number?
It's an estimate.
Oh, it is an estimate.
It's an estimate.
Oh, okay. I thought it was an exact age.
No, estimate. And
Did she have a purse with her?
well, you know, I actually didn't look, so I saw some personal effects down there. I mean, clothing items, but I didn't see any purse.
A witness told us this morning that she was wearing white tennis shoes, and that's kind of what he spotted in the water. So is there any idea that a lot of people walk in this area as well? Could she have been out for exercise? And did she look like she was dressed for exercise?
Some people wear exercise clothing around the house. So, I mean, it's hard to say. And, you know, of course, one of the things that we're interested in is who she is and how she got into the water and those circumstances, whether or not there's any foul play, what the cause of death is, and how we get that information moving forward in the investigation. Because if there is foul play, that's something that we're going to be taking very seriously, and our response will be elevated. Right now, we just don't have that information. So we're taking the early steps that we would ordinarily take in a similar circumstance.